are you this evening? I hope you're doing well. I wanted to come to you today or this evening to talk about Dark World Lightwork. I want to basically give you a synopsis of the story. Like I mentioned before, it is a memoir, and it starts with me in preschool and it goes all the way to the present day. So basically it starts in preschool and it tells a tale of myself and the god, and it's really interesting. And then I talk a little bit about my family life, my grandmother, my grandfather, my parents, in a couple of chapters. And then I start to talk about the dark world in one chapter where I talk about 9/11. And then I talk more about my life, some of my romances. And so that leads me to the story of a near-death experience. After I recovered from that near-death experience and the whole thing, which took about 2 years, I came back to the world with a different point of view. Died and reborn in this same body during the near-death experience. It was quite fascinating. But I came back with a completely different perspective on life in general. And I had an awakening that was really evolutionary for my mind. And then a little while after that, I tuned back into the world via, you mean like the media. And when I did, I could see everything. I could see the veil had been lifted, and I could just see right through the smoke and mirrors and to the real story for whatever reason. And there is a chapter in the book called Tuned In where I talk about that. And the story that leads me to what I was talking about in my other videos about the people coming for my life because I said something about them online. The story behind that is when I finally recovered and decided to come back into the world, I really introduced myself to media through like cartoons first because everything else was just absolutely too garish. And I was working my way, back to regular, whatever it was, television shows or whatever it was. But one day I came downstairs and my grandmother was watching the Super Bowl. And she was actually just waiting for the halftime performance. I think it was Lady Gaga that year, I'm pretty sure. And she remembered that, which I was really excited that she remembered who was performing. So I sat down to watch it with her. And I proceeded to see the fakest thing I ever seen in my life. I'd never seen any, whoever choreographed that year's Super Bowl didn't even watch a movie as hardcore as Any Given Sunday. It was so bad. And then I kept seeing these shots, these movie style shots to the box where the owner of this football team is clanking beers in this ill-fitting suit, trying to be the star of the show. And I knew exactly what was up from that moment because I know television, I know film, I know shots, I know hits, I know boys who like to bang. And I know when somebody is playing football for real. And these boys were not playing football for real. I don't know if they're playing football for real now. I bet you they're not. And I tuned right in. I tuned right in. And that was the first time these people got on my radar. There's more. Hold on. Hello, friends. How are you this morning? I hope you're doing well. This angle, I do this every single time. I look very huge, like Max Headroom. Anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the plot of Dark World Lightwork because now that I'm thinking about it, it is really very interesting. In the last video, or the last portion of the video, I talked to you about how I was introduced to some of the players of Dark World Lightwork through the Super Bowl. Okay, well, this is where the plot thickens. A couple of weeks later, I happened to see an actor on a late night talk show. And when I tell you, I just really could not believe what I was watching. I thought this guy wants to be the star of the show. So this guy pays off, in a way, right, this actor to drop his name on a late night talk show so that he can get tickets to the freaking Super Bowl. Oh, it was just absolutely ridiculous. But that is another part of the web, another piece of the puzzle that I was able to string together. And these little pieces just kept coming to me, especially in this short amount of time. And we'll talk about the next one next. Oh, this is probably a completely different angle. Anyway, there's more to the story, obviously, but you have to read the book. But that's the beginning of the whole entry into the dark world. And then it just gets stranger from there. Because at first the energy was very light and just like artistic. I felt that energy. And then that was for a while. Then some very dark entities tried to interfere in that. And that has been a long time. They've been trying and trying and trying for a very long time. And they have failed the entire time, but they have been given the time to try. That's the thing that I'm most interested in understanding as this story unfolds. Why were they given so much time to fail? Why were they given so many tries when they failed every single time? And like, it was a fantastic fail. It was even like visible often. Why would they still be allowed to keep going, failing and failing and failing, I guess all the way to the end? That's the fall of man. Wow, it's been crazy, because that's the only thing that makes sense, because these people have failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. This mission, I know this one, the one where they were trying to destroy my life. No, they have failed that at every turn, like literally at every turn. And you'll see, you can read it in the book. But they were given and are still being given chances to do whatever it is to fail. Oh my gosh, it's just like mind numbing. Whoa, the lighting changed. What was that? Whoa. It's mind numbing. That's the most mind-numbing part about it. How many times do you give somebody a chance to fail? If they fail, they just keep failing and failing and failing all the way to the end? Ew, I'm not into that kind of weirdness, but whatever. But they've been failing the whole time, and they will fail all the way to the end. And it has been fascinating.